If you've got a nice, short, snappy, memorable volcanic or geohazard related experience, something that you've done in your life that just always sticks in your memory, it'd be great to hear something.
Go ahead, Beth.
I love you. Okay. So, I did. I thought about this a little bit. So many, of course, to choose from. People who know me well know that my master's work in the Philippines was really formative for me. So I've chosen a story from the Philippines. It is a non-eruptive volcanic hazard. So once upon a time, when I was working as a master's student with colleagues at the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, VVolcs, the group there responsible for monitoring their volcanoes. They graciously invited me to go with them up to the crater, the caldera of Pinatubo volcano, which is a huge volcano in the Philippines, to install some lake gauge instrumentation. Whole big story here that I won't go into, but suffice to say that we made it up. They said, I was like, I know there are lahar hazards. They're like, yeah, no, we won't go if the weather's bad. Okay, well, we get there and start the hike. It starts raining. And I'm like, so rain's not bad weather. And they're like, oh, it's light rain. It's fine. Okay. So, we hike up, and long story short, flash flood comes down after we come up, but before our gear comes up. And so we spent the night up on the caldera rim with a bunch of military and journalists and porters and us, but without our gear. So this story is called No More Lonely Nights, which is one of the songs that we like to sing on karaoke. Anybody who knows anything about the Philippines knows that. Huge on karaoke. So we were actually on a 4x6 foot tarp. It was, I think there were 9 of us. I think it was me and 9 men from VVolcs. And we had a tarp strung overhead that was dripping, and we were sitting on life vests, and that's how we spent the night. And all night, periodically, I could hear landslides, like rock falls, coming down from around the caldera rim. And I was not scared at all because I'm tough of nails. No, I was terrified because that's a natural human reaction, to be scared of things. And it was dark, and I couldn't see actually what was happening. I could just hear these landslides. And I also didn't understand most of the communication because I was the only foreigner up there, and everybody else spoke Tagalog. So I couldn't understand the conversations. So when I would ask about things, I would get some abbreviated form of what they had discussed or not. So I had no idea what their risk perception was. And I asked, are those landslides? Where are those landslides? Oh, don't worry about it. It's on the other side of the caldera. And then, 5 minutes later, there was one that sounds like it was, 100 meters away. So in the morning, I could see that those landslides were coming down only in gullies, whereas I was imagining this whole ledge we were on was going to go down into the caldera lake at some point. Nope, they were happening in the gullies. And I thought, okay, well, if I'd known that would have been really helpful for me to know. And that story, at the time, I didn't think of it in a risk perception frame, but now that I'm studying risk and communication and our perception of hazards, that story definitely comes back to me, and that idea of just not having that information and understanding. And when we're talking about hazards, we really need to understand the hazard scientifically and know that. And there is, as Wendy's learned a lot through her work with earthquakes, there's just great, I guess, comfort in understanding, because that enables us to make informed decisions. So it doesn't mean always like, oh no, the hazard's not that big of a deal. Maybe it is a big deal, but if I understand the hazard and the process behind it, I can make more informed decisions for myself.
Absolutely.
So you made me change my story, Beth.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm going to tell the story about the little ground squirrels in Argentina and how they scared me to death, and we all slept in tents together for several days because we didn't know it was making that noise. But I'm not. Like,
well, there we go. That's
my
great.
exciting fieldwork stories have to do with animals, like seeing snow leopards or, like getting a cat from Bolivia. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. And it's not even a fieldwork story, but it's about risk perception. So I'm on Twitter, and I talk to a lot of people, and I have a lot of people DM me that are afraid of earthquakes. And I had a a young man DM me. He lived in San Diego, and they had been having kind of a swarm of earthquakes. There had been a moderate size event and then lots of little ones, but he was feeling all of them because he lived very close to where they were occurring, and he was terrified. I mean, he was terrified. And so we spent several days going back and forth, and I would send him resources and he would read them and digest them. And then he would come back and he had all of these questions. And then I didn't hear from him for a little while. And then I got a note on Twitter from his account from his mom. And she was saying that he had started sleeping through the night again. And she wanted to thank me because he felt in control of the situation again. They had gone out and made an earthquake kit. They had moved his room around so that he felt safer in that space. And now he was no longer afraid and he was sleeping through the night. So that to me is one of those stories that when I'm having a really terrible day, or I'm like thinking about how like it's so stupid that I'm just doing meetings and emails and I'm making no impact in the world, little things matter. You know, taking the time to talk to people about things like this, it makes a difference. And so that's going to be my story now.